kind of your focus today?
Really just getting shots, getting some competition in, getting up and down. Like our guys have been working extremely hard for the last few weeks, but I'm going into it assuming they didn't, or acting as if they didn't do anything. And so just a day of not a lot of thinking, not a lot of teaching, but really getting up and down and getting some conditioning.
You were talking yesterday about some of the bigger bully ball lineups y'all might roll out. Do you feel like that's becoming a more recent trend of teams shifting from small ball back to oversized?
Yeah, I would think there's more than you think, more teams that can employ that, or I think trends come and go, and it's really based on personnel. Looking at my background, and I was around obviously Tim Duncan and Fabrizio Berto, and then LaMarcus came with Timmy, and then Pau Gasol came with Timmy, and then I went to Philly with Joel and Al Horford, and I had Al Horford and Rob in Boston. So it's something I'm very comfortable with, and if your lineups and personnel dictate it, it's something that can work and kind of counter with the trends of the league. And so, let's talk about our size, and Alpe's versatility allows us to do a lot of things, but I think a lot more teams have bigs that can't play together, and the trends come and go, and it's one that's seeming to go back in that direction now.
Ime, where have you seen the biggest growth in Reed Shepherd's game in the offseason coming into camp now?
There's some physical, no doubt. On both ends, him getting used to the game and adjusting to that. So he's done a good job with his body and playing, being stronger. But really, the main thing is aggressiveness and confidence. You see him kind of understanding what it takes to be successful in the league, and he looks like a different player as far as that. Second guessed some things last year at times. Wanted to be aggressive, and he's done that on both ends.
In your history in the league, have you traditionally seen guys make a pretty big jump from year one to year two?
Yeah, I think in general, some come in hitting right away, and that's usually not the case. Guys have to figure it out or go through some ups and downs, and so it's not unaccustomed to that. But look at Amen, for instance. He was injured early his first year, played a little bit, and then took another big jump. And I think all of our young guys have done that. So for the most part, I think it's pretty standard that guys are going to be different players after a year or two, and he's showing that.
How do you envision KD and Jabari complementing each other when they show the floor together?
KD and Jabari,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
How do you envision them complementing each other when they show the floor together between Jabari and KD?
Yeah, for the most part, depending on what position they're playing, somebody's going to have a clear advantage. They both can play inside, can play outside, and do a lot of things with the ball, and their versatility will help each other. I kind of go back to my playing days with Orlando. You look at Rashard Lewis, one of those guys had an advantage on a nightly basis with the 4-man on him, and vice versa. So they could do some things like that, and I think Jabari's been a sponge, with him for the last few months, and soaking up, working out together, and learning some of the things that he does well, regardless of him taking this natural step this summer as well. So, like I said, somebody should have an advantage on a nightly basis, especially if we play him at the 3 and the 4, or they get at the 2 or the 3. So we'll see.
When Fred was out for a little period last year and Amen had to handle the ball a little more, how do you think that that's going to help him now?
Yeah, going through it, I think we did look at that. Fred missed 19 last year, and we went 11-8 in those games. And out of those 19 games, we had a fourth quarter lead in 17 of them. So it wasn't just Fred; it was Amen, obviously, and Alpe and Jalen at times, and so they've had some practice with it, and that should bode well going forward. But him, Reed, and others, like I mentioned, will all do it by committee and figure that out. But the fact that they have done it and we had some success without him last year should be a good thing.
A lot of the new guys here talking about how much they wanted to play for you and your coaching style. Who do you pattern your coaching style after, as far as being to who you are right now?
As far as being what?
The coaching style that you have right now with players wanting to come and play for you, and be coached by you.
I wouldn't say anybody. Honestly, I don't try to be like any other coach that I've had. You take bits and pieces from people, but you have to be who you are, and I think that's the main thing. Authentic and genuine to who you are. Obviously, I'm heavily influenced by Pop and the honesty and the accountability and those things, and I think that all makes sense to me, but I'm not trying to be him or do what he did, and just being myself, being somewhat in their age range, I guess. I mean, although there are some 19-year-olds here, or being relatable as far as that's the biggest thing. That relationship, relatability, fact that I've done it and can talk to them on that level. And so don't really try to be anybody, but like I said, it's taking bits and pieces and just try to be me.
You guys are 6 days from an actual game, preseason, but still. What's the build-up process this week in terms of what you're doing each day to try and get them, ready for an NBA game on Monday night?
Yeah, I think installing some offense in the next few days for sure, especially with some new guys here. And although they're veterans, they've been around, they'll catch on to that quickly. Looking what works well for us defensively. I think it's really going back to the basics of what has made us good over the last few seasons. And so you don't want to give too much up in the preseason or overload them at times, but seeing different lineups to be primary concern for us, but also installing little by little and not overloading. So like I said, today wasn't much of a thinking day. It was more of a physical day, just getting up and down, getting accustomed to banging again. And by game 1 and game 2, it's not ideal, in my opinion, that we have 2 and 3 nights, but basically twice. And so, but in between, we have time to get things going in that week in between.
People talk a lot about KD being able to fit in whatever environment or style of play you put him in. What do you think allows him to do that so seamlessly?
I mean, that he can do everything on the court, offensively and defensively. The size and versatility on both ends, and then his experience of being in different systems and kind of being around everything. And so, like I said, I've worked with him quite a bit, and he's been with some different programs and seen pretty much everything in these years. And so, the IQ and the experience make it easy for him.